So, guys, as we now know, Deshaun Watson going to miss the first 11 games of the season, going to play the final 6 games of the year. Can you even draft him?
I can if I'm in a draft that has over 200 picks. That's how far he's going to fall because I don't want to spend a bench spot on a player who I can't use for literally the first 12 weeks of the season. You're practically in the fantasy playoffs by the time Deshaun Watson is eligible to play. Now, the flip side of that is thinking you could have Deshaun Watson as your quarterback in the fantasy playoffs. That sounds good, but you better have a lot of bench spots if you're going to take that chance. I can't take him with a pick in the 150 range, 160 range, 170 range, 180 range. Out. Not doing it. You can find other quarterbacks. 200th or later, I'll take a chance on him.
Heath, when you look at Deshaun Watson and what could be at the end of the year, assuming he doesn't go drafted, we saw the first preseason game clearly did not look great, but we hope will be a little bit of a better player by the time he gets back on the field, if that's even possible. But will you be looking at him maybe as somebody that could help you in the fantasy playoffs?
He is somebody that if he's on the waiver wire, probably is around week 8, I would be looking to pick up. But I do think that there's a little bit of reason for caution. The fact that he's going to come in week 13 of the NFL season. Everybody else is in midseason form, and he might need a couple of weeks to get going. Maybe by the time he gets to your fantasy playoffs, then you're good to go. Definitely someone I'd want to have on my bench once we get to that point. But I agree with Dave. It would probably be in the pick 180 range before I would be considering him.
Jacoby Brissett going to start for the Browns. At least that's the plan right now. We don't know if they're going to make another move. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe some other quarterback becomes available. But clearly it impacts what's going to happen with the rest of the Browns' skill players. And we start with the running backs there. When you look at Nick Chubb, you look at Kareem Hunt, obviously two guys that are going to be very fantasy relevant. Chubb going probably somewhere at the back end of round 2, beginning of round 3, depending on the format that you're in. Kareem Hunt, more of a mid-round pick as the number 2 running back there, but clearly has the ability to be a starter. So Heath, what's your assessment of the running backs now that we know the situation with the quarterback?
I didn't move them too much. A little boost up for both Chubb and Hunt. I think this offense could be pretty good in the fantasy playoffs, and I was a little worried about what Jacoby Brissett would do to their touchdown potential early in the year. Still view Chubb as a low-end number 1 running back in non-PPR, a high-end number 2 running back in full PPR, and Hunt more of a flex or a number 3 running back who has big-time upside if something happens to Chubb.
I feel the exact same way. I think you look at Nick Chubb in non-PPR, you want to take him with the top 15 pick. I think that works. Kareem Hunt will fall significantly farther than that. I think he's in that round 6-7 range in non-PPR. And then in full PPR, Chubb is decidedly a late second-round pick, if not an early third-round pick, because he doesn't get a lot of targets, doesn't get a lot of catches. And Kareem Hunt, somebody who does, or at least he has in the past. We think he will now. And there's always the outside chance he gets traded before the season starts. We've heard that rumor before, too. I think he's a round 6 pick, and Hunt's somebody that I don't mind taking as a number 2 running back in that hero RB draft strategy where you take one running back early and then a lot of non-running backs, and then you get to round 6, Kareem Hunt sitting there, you take him, you start the year with him as your number 2 runner.
And then we're, I think what we'll see is Jacoby Brissett, because of the lack of downfield throws, it could benefit somebody like Kareem Hunt maybe a little bit more so than even Deshaun Watson, because panic in the pocket, we could see Jacoby Brissett looking for Kareem Hunt, who we know plays a lot on passing downs. Let's talk about the pass catchers there, Dave. And so we have a situation of Amari Cooper joining the team after being traded from Dallas, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell, Schwartz. They have, it's really mostly about Cooper, and then David Njoku with the tight end position. Where do you come out on Cooper? Where do you come out on Njoku?
I'm not a fan of Amari Cooper. I'm out on Amari Cooper. I wouldn't take him with a top 80 pick. I know that he's been great for fantasy before, but that's when he was catching passes previously from Dak Prescott and Derek Carr. Now it's Jacoby Brissett for the entirety, or almost the entirety, of your fantasy regular season. And then in week 13, he gets Deshaun back, but he mentioned it, and I think it's a good point. We don't know how ready Deshaun Watson's going to be when he comes back in. Is he going to be at full speed like everybody else in the NFL, or is he going to need some time to really get going? So I don't like Amari Cooper, and the only Browns pass catcher I do kind of like is David Njoku. I think he's a decent tight end that you can begin the season with streaming. We talked about it all offseason. The Browns schedule at the beginning of the year, it's favorable. He's going to get a lot of targets. He could be the second most target getter on the Browns. I don't mind taking him with a late choice.
Heath, has your opinion changed on Amari Cooper at all?
Yeah, boost up for him from where I had him, and I had him, I think 45 was where I was on him. I now view him as a low-end number 3 wide receiver, someone in that Allen Lazard, Robert Woods type range. It is a tricky way to project because I think he's like a flex type player for the first 3 months of the season, and then maybe a borderline top 12 wide receiver for the last 6 weeks. It's hard to value that. I'll value that as a low-end number 3.
and it could be pretty just a heavy amount of targets for him just because of the guys around him, Njoku being the most accomplished guy, but you could just see Jacoby Brissett leaning on him again and again and again. Not going to be a lot of quality targets, but certainly a lot of volume there for Amari Cooper. So again, the news, Deshaun Watson going to be suspended, 11 games, fined $5 million. First game back will be week 13 against his former team, the Houston Texans. Don't forget to check out our Fantasy Football Today Draft-a-thon, Wednesday, August 31st, 6 p.m. to midnight, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock Eastern here on CBS Sports HQ. Rest of the night on our YouTube channel for our podcast. We will help you win your fantasy leagues. You will help us raise money for the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital.